These are also mold for making molds. This is easier, right? So it's also a one-to-one part. I'm gonna mold this one. This is by Illumilite. You have about 1 to 5 minutes of mold time on this one. This is still good. I only want to make a mold of this, the emblem, right? Very easy. Get a certain amount. Just make sure it's 50-50. It's very forgiving. Usually I use a tool to pull this because I don't want to contaminate these and have them. Yeah, it's about roughly the right size, huh? Anyway, I'm gonna edit this later on to show you the part for this part. This I just want to show this really quickly because it's really easy to use. Just need it. Need it. You don't even need a mold release on this thing. See, now there's no more, barely any streaks in there. That should work fine. So this one, just gotta press it along this. I just usually roll it. Okay. Alright, that's it. Okay, in an earlier clip I showed you how to use these two things, the Illumilite. I bought a new one so it kind of looks different. Illumilite mold putty. It's just a mix ratio of 1-to-1. Just basically squeeze it in, all that stuff, and you put it on these, on the original. The originals were these ones. Anyway, I pulled it out of the mold. I was gonna show you how to demold them, but you know, in the heat of the moment, I forgot. Plus, I do it outside. Let's see, where's this one? Anyway, this one came from that. I've already cut most of the outside support, and I've already sanded it down. Use a belt sander. Be careful because you know, if you slip up, it could basically sand off your nails. Anyway, I've basically sanded it off to the thinness that I want. I've cleaned it a little bit. I'll clean it some more because I'm going to use this one. See, I just need to trim off a little bit of this, and then I'm going to stick it in to the piece. Yeah, so that's I got this idea from Toy Gante, I think, where he was molding and casting just a bunch of stuff that he liked. So now I have all this. See, this one I've already glued it. I'll show it to you later. So now I have all this things that I can keep for later uses if I want to. This one looks so cool. You know where I got this from? I got this from a Masterpiece Transformers Optimus Prime movie, Bumblebee movie. I realized I have so many toys around here that I could make a mold out of, and just started casting things from them. So anyway, on to the next clip, huh? Hello, so I want to show you guys a new a technique that I started thinking about. As you notice, certain surfaces over here is pretty rough. I tried to fill it up with stuff, with fillers and all that. Doesn't seem to work. The next step I had to do was re-skin it with this thinner polystyrene, but it became too much of a chore. The smaller it is, especially with these parts. So one of the things I had on hand is this is full of UV resin. So it's basically liquid all the way through until you hit it with the UV light or you expose it to direct sunlight. Why am I doing this? It's perfect because in certain parts I've done rough sanding to even out the surfaces when I'm filling these out. It was taking way too long and I was getting frustrated. So what I started doing is, as you'll see, I'll apply this, just a tiny drop. It'll probably seep into some of the areas, but this will also act as small fillers to those corners, right? And then I'm gonna hit it with a brush to spread it around. This is basically liquid. It will stay liquid until I hit it with a UV light. Now the thing is, this thing, you don't want to apply it really thick, because the thicker it is, it's not necessarily the UV flashlight that I'm going to show you will hit the thicker layer. So in fact, when I was trying to cast things using the UV resin, and what I've noticed is if it becomes too thick, sometimes it doesn't follow through. So just be careful. Hide your brushes that has the UV resin. Hide your resin. Hit it with a light, UV light like this. See? Okay. You won't notice the difference because it's so thin. I assure you, it's doing some chemical stuff sometimes. If it's too thick, you'll see it burst out, have a chemical reaction. But that should be good enough for now. It's solidified enough. Then I'll come back in again, and this is the reason why it's actually covered with tape. And you don't want to be doing this obviously outside in the sun. Your resin will set. I mean, it will cause problems for you, honestly. This is used for 3D printers. If you guys don't know, this resin, certain 3D printers, they have UV light underneath it, and it basically hits a vat of resin layer by layer and solidifies it that way. I just use this thing to slightly brush the excess resin away, because if you don't, you'll have to sand it, and then you're gonna have to work. So it's just easier to just wipe it off while it's still hot. You notice that when I'm wiping it, there's some residue. That's the first layer that we just applied, because I didn't clean it as well as I should have. And as you notice, you can't wipe it away now because it's kind of hardened a little bit. So now I'm hitting it again, doing a quick bypass. I'm gonna sand it again, honestly, with this, at least this way, with higher grit. That way it's not so rough anymore. Then I'm gonna hit this part right here. See, I've tried fixing it with regular fillers, and it was just kind of frustrating. I was thinking of reskinning it with the white polystyrene, but I decided, you know what, let's try and see how this works. Then I go on the side right there, and like that. That looks good. I'm going to use my brush to brush it on. Right? Brush it on. And this is very liquidy, so it's going to start running off, you know. And basically what creates it creates a normal level surface. It's not perfect, because if it's really thin, the moment the UV light hits it, it has a reaction, and just some of it just bubbles up, like slightly, but it's not a perfectly level, not a perfectly smooth. So I'm gonna hit now. Boom. So I'll hit it for a few seconds. It's enough to catalyze the immediate surface of it. See how this part, it pulls over like that. That might be a little bit too thick, so I'll probably leave it out in the sun for an hour or two, maybe 30 minutes. That should be enough to catalyze whatever's going on in there. I'll try to piece these videos together because I'm just doing it really quick right now, and hopefully it'll make sense. That's good enough right there. So this was the result from last night. You'll notice, I'm not sure if you guys are noticing that. Okay, See, this part I sanded off. I've hit it. I've hit this one too, but you notice there's a residue. There's an oily residue over there. That's what's gonna happen. What I've noticed is even though I've hit it, there's gonna be an oil residue. That might have been as it catalyzes completely, it pushes out whatever oils that's inside the chemical, but it hardens it, so you might need to wash it. I haven't hit this with. You definitely need to make sure there's none of that oily residue once you start hitting it with a primer, because I'm more than positive it's going to react to that primer. This is completely all by experiment, so I don't know how this is going to react to the primer until I do it. First time I've done this or used this material, so here's the other side that I've already hit. I've hit it enough so that's a little bit smooth. See, this one I haven't even sanded. I think I just hit this slightly like 30 minutes ago. But here, see, has an oily residue, but it's hard. It's hard enough to start sanding it now. So yeah, this is a quick clip on how I'm experimenting with creating a smooth surface to this. Oh, by the way, here's a really good use for it. See this? I was cutting it. I'm not sure if you can see it. I'll try to hit a couple of. There's a scratch. I hit it with the edge of this. Oh my god, so pissed. And here's some more. Was there another one here? Now I did this a couple times here, and as deep as this scratch was, you hear that? It's that deep. So I brushed on this to the surface. Can you hear it? Nothing. This is catching nothing. So this technique, basically just brush it on. It's enough to create a filler for this. Then you just sand it and you're good to go. Gets rid of that deep cuts on your polystyrene. Yeah, at least it does that. So anyway, I hope you find this little tip useful for now.